everyone, I'm Aoife O'Sullivan. I am Causeway's Events and Communications Manager, and it's a pleasure to welcome you all here today for this second event in our Digitising the Construction Sector series. This series of events has been kindly sponsored by Invest Northern Ireland and is designed to support leaders and professionals from the construction sector on your complete digital journey and to provide you with opportunities to hear from experts on their digital transformation experiences, and as well as have networking opportunities to connect and chat with colleagues in the same sector from across Scotland, Ireland and Northern Ireland. First, I'm just going to give you some very quick housekeeping before we kick off today's event. I'm advising you this event today is being recorded and we will publish it on the Causeway communications channels and we will share it with you after today's event. I'd also like to advise you while you are on mute for the beginning of today's event, this event today will be very dynamic and interactive. We're going to be running polls. We're going to be putting you into breakout networking sessions so you can have the opportunity to have deeper discussions about digital transformation and your experience of digital leadership. So I'd advise you, please be ready to come off mute and turn your camera on for this part of the event. There will be two breakout workshop sessions in between our guest talks today. Today's event is going to be hosted by my colleague Linda Scott, who is a Causeway board member, and she is also Head of Industry Engagement with Digital Skills Academy CoPlan. We will also have Q&A chats today facilitated by our series sponsor, Nick Tuberville of Invest Northern Ireland, with Causeway member Saffron Grant of Digital Construction Skills, Richard Ingham of Morrison Construction, and Richard Kirk of Workplus app. In addition to Nick and Linda facilitating and hosting today's event, I would also like to take this opportunity to thank other contributors in this series, our valued Causeway members and partners. So that is John Hunt of Enterprise Ireland, Saffron Grant and Chris Grant of Digital Construction Skills, George Harold of Integrated Facility Solutions, and Eugene Mullen of Causeway and Smith Scott Mullen Architects. They've all been instrumental in shaping this series of events, and they will also help facilitate our breakout networking sessions today. I'm aware we do have a mix of people here today from across Scotland, Ireland and Northern Ireland, some who are Causeway members, some who are not. Regardless, you're all very, very welcome. I would like to take this opportunity to give a particular warm welcome to recent Causeway members who have joined the network since our last event in this series from the sector. So Patrick Buckley of EPS Water, Mark McKeown of FK Lowry, Edward Farron of Fenwick Elliott LLP, and John Fitzgerald of ISO Spaces. Delighted to have you part of our growing network. To tell you more about Causeway and today's event, I am now going to pass you over to our host, Linda Scott. As I mentioned, Linda is a Causeway board member, but she is here today with two hats on. She is also she's also Chief Marketing Officer and Head of Industry Engagement of National Digital Skills Academy CoPlan. She has worked with Causeway for many years. In a previous role, she was also CEO of West Lothian Chamber for 7 years and involved in several trade missions between Ireland and Scotland. Over to you, Linda.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Evening and welcome everybody. And thank you for attending this evening, particularly on this very nice sunny night. I know a lot of us will be straight out for a walk after this, so thank you very much. I said my name is Linda Scott and I'm here with both my hats on, so I will give you a little bit of an update on both. So it's a pleasure to welcome you here today for our second event in our Digitising Construction Sector series, kindly sponsored by Invest Northern Ireland. This event is part of a series of 4 workshop events designed to connect professionals in the construction sector from across Scotland, Ireland and Northern Ireland to support you on your journey to digitisation. Our last event in February on the topic of what makes successful digital transformation generated a lot of thought-provoking discussion and is available to watch back on the Causeway website and the YouTube channel, and future events in the series will also take place in June and September. So hopefully we'll get the same today, good conversation in the breakout rooms. As Eva mentioned, this series of events is brought to you by a group of members of Causeway Network from across Ireland, Northern Ireland and Scotland. For those of you who may not be members of Causeway, I'll just give you a quick bit of a background about our network and then I'll give you a quick summary of my role at CoPlan. So as you said, I'm very, very proud to be a board member of Causeway, and I have been involved in Causeway for many years through the Chamber Network and our several trade missions back and forth to Ireland, which are always great fun. So Causeway is an Ireland-Scotland business exchange CAUSEWAY was founded in 2016 in Edinburgh Castle and is a growing network organisation consisting of professional members from across Scotland, Ireland and Northern Ireland from a variety of sectors who share an interest in building professional relationships, in boosting trade and exploring opportunities for growth on both sides of the Irish Sea. And we also have a joint membership with BITA, which I also had the joy and pleasure of working with in the past at the Chamber too. CAUSEWAY has a core focus to protect and enhance the trading relationship between Scotland and the island of Ireland. No matter the political or economic environment, it's about providing an informal business platform that allows businesses to connect, communicate and collaborate. Yearly, many billions worth of trade is transacted bilaterally between Scotland and Ireland, and there are many thousands of Irish people providing skills and talents into Scottish industry, with Scots doing the same throughout Ireland. For many years, Scottish Government and Irish Government have seen the partnership between Scotland and Ireland as absolutely crucial for trade moving forward, particularly in these times. With Brexit and COVID-19 impacting drastically our economies, it's even more important more now than ever that we pull together using the CAUSEWAY platform to protect these sorts of numbers and ensure that the trading relationship between Scotland and Ireland is maintained, if not enhanced. So that's a bit of an update on CAUSEWAY. CodeClan, as said, is the Digital Skills Academy of Scotland. It was founded 5 years ago by Scotland IS, SDS and Scottish Government. It was created to fill the digital skills gap in Scotland, which is now growing even bigger now than ever. I've been in several events this week talking about that skills gap getting bigger and bigger. It now stands alone commercially, and we have seen over 1,000 grads pass through our doors. Our grads are generally reskillers, individuals who come from varied backgrounds, covering almost every sector, which is what gives them the USP. They have the digital skills combined with real life skills that come from many businesses, which they use to their new advantage. For example's sake, we have companies who have like hospitality platforms, so they will hire somebody with a hospitality background, or an engineering platform, they'll pick someone with an engineering background. And our students really come from all walks of life, from taxi drivers to engineers to finance to ballet dancers. We've had ballet dancers, we've had trapeze. We had a girl that went and did data last year, and she'd done the, you know, they danced down the ropes and the hoops and all sorts of things, but now she works in a really big company as a data scientist. Our main fully immersive courses are professional software development and data analysis, and we also run several short courses for industry. CodeClan now has over 380, in fact we might be close to 400 industry partners, covering all sizes from startups all the way up to big multinationals. And we have 15 alliance partners with networks of over 10,000 businesses. These partners hire our grads and send their current staff to upskill in one of our either full-time courses or 2 to 5 days courses. Our immersive courses run from 16 weeks to 14 weeks, and we are actually talking to several universities at the moment about potentially incorporating our immersive courses into the GA, which would fast track them through year one. It's so important now more than ever that we look at how digitising our business and how we skill our staff to manage the changes ahead of them. Companies that don't will struggle in the future to keep up with the tendering process and being part of the larger supply chain. Hence the reason we're all here today. CodeClan is delighted to be part of this series of events and to join you in these discussions on helping the construction sector digitise. Before we kick off today's events and interviews with our guest speakers, we just want to do a quick poll to try and understand your experience of training on the digital leadership in the, oh, here it comes, it has it there. So if you could all just take a few minutes to fill this in, this would be great. And then we will come back to you with some results before we move on.
Where is the poll, Linda? I'm not seeing it.
Pardon?
Where is it the poll? Should the poll
pop it up on the screen? Yep.
I'm not seeing it. Is anyone else? Is everyone else seeing it? Is it just me?
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
I can only see one question though. Is
yeah,
that right?
It's just one question. Yeah, I can see 37 people have taken it. Yeah.
If you're on a tablet, try swiping, and sometimes the poll is, if you're on an iPhone or tablet, if you swipe, sometimes the poll is on the next screen.
we'll hopefully get it sorted for the next poll, but I'll just share results now so we can keep moving on, because I can see most people have taken it.
Okay, so the results coming in, we can see 51% have seen a digital specific course, so that's good to know actually, but we've also got 46%, so that's not, it's almost 50-50 as they say, so there's a bit of work to be done there. So thank you very much everyone for taking part in that. Okay, we'll move on because we've got a lot to do today. So I am now very pleased to pass over to our event sponsor and fellow Causeway member, Nick Turmerville of Invest Northern Ireland. Nick has worked with Invest Northern Ireland for over 10 years and is head of trade, GB Construction, supporting many Northern Irish businesses secure new work on major projects and new connections. He will facilitate the Q&A sessions with our guests. Over to you, Nick. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Linda. Yeah, as Linda said, I'm head of trade for construction in GB. For those of you that don't know Invest Northern Ireland, we're the economic development agency for Northern Ireland, trying to facilitate our clients build their export sales, GB and further afield. We've got offices everywhere from Santiago to Sydney. So yeah, a lot going on, but this gives us huge delight to be involved in this series of events as sponsors, facilitating trade between Northern Ireland, Republic of Ireland and the rest of GB and Scotland in particular. So I'm delighted to introduce our first guest and fellow Causeway member, Saffron Grant from Digital Construction Skills in Scotland, to join me to discuss some more about digital leadership. Hi, Saffron.
Hi, Nick. Brilliant. Thanks for the introduction. So I'll just give a quick overview of where I'm coming from. I'm a civil engineer by background, and my role at the moment is Managing Director of Digital Construction Skills. We're funded by CITB to lead the Digital Transformation Through Leaders project. And that's a programme of training and support to help leaders of construction companies to drive digital change in their organisation. And I'm also involved in various groups for the Construction Industry Recovery Action Plan and some other cross-sector digital skills groups.
Excellent. So we'll kick off the first question, sort of fairly broad, but how do you define digital leadership and how relevant is it in the construction industry?
Yeah, it's a good question, Nick, and it's a really important one because in my mind, it's the starting point of any digital journey, no matter what sector you're talking about. And I suppose it's about having the skills and knowledge you need to drive digital transformation. You know, for me, you could almost remove the word digital from the question because good digital leadership is just good leadership. You know, it can take lots of different forms, but I'll talk about it in the context of like leaders who are decision makers, you know, in a company. So a good leader needs to be able to see what's coming on the horizon and prepare for it. They need to have vision, and at a minimum, they need to be able to educate themselves enough to understand how important their role is. And for some people, that might be quite a stretch of their comfort zones. But, you know, if they don't understand how things are changing, what their competitors are doing, what best practice looks like, then they're not going to be able to say the right things to get people on board, and they're not going to adequately resource the changes. You know, they have a duty to their employees, their clients, their supply chain, to understand what they need to do as a leader. Now, you know, I'm not saying that they need to become digital experts necessarily, but they need to have a good idea of what best practice looks like and what's on the horizon in terms of new technologies that might threaten their business or help it to grow. So they need to think about, you know, understand things like insurances, how digital tools can help with accountability, transparency, the relationship between digital tools and digital ways of working, and business improvement, business growth, you know, how it can help them to win more work. So I'd say digital leadership is about creating the right conditions, creating the right culture to enable progress and to not inhibit it. So, you know, in order to do that, they need to understand behavioural change management. They need to understand enough to make sure that they've addressed any blockers in the system and to make sure that they themselves are not unconsciously, you know, being a blocker. You know, I think also, you know, good leaders, they need to be willing to seek support if necessary. You know, if they themselves don't have the knowledge and skills, they need to know how to get the right people involved and to empower those people. You know, one other thing that I think leaders, digital leaders need to be able to do is make sure their company is in a robust and strong position, so that they're in a position to take calculated risks with introducing new technologies. You know, and just as importantly, to assess the risk of not taking any action, you know, to consciously to work out, you know, what have we got to lose if we don't embrace this digital change?
Very good. So just briefly, you covered a lot of this question in your previous answer, but just to reiterate, who in particular needs digital leadership skills?
Well, I think anyone who's in a position of leadership or influence or even management need to have some kind of digital leadership skills. So that might be the top person in a company, it might be, you know, other directors or senior managers, it might be project managers, site managers, you know, it might be the people involved in the various like construction industry recovery plan actions. Might be trade bodies, professional associations. You know, it might be a young site engineer or technician who's excited about technology. You know, it comes naturally to them, and they can go to their bosses and say, look, this is what we should be doing. You know, I think we've all got a duty to educate ourselves about the potential of digital tools and to keep it at the forefront of our mind in every part of our work. But basically, I think anyone can have digital leadership skills if they want to.
Yeah, very good. And how can people go about picking these digital leadership skills up? I mean, what sort of training is available out there in the market at the moment?
Well, I think there's two parts to this, and that's the leadership element and the digital element, because I don't think you can have good digital leadership skills if you don't have good leadership skills in the first place. And I think that's something that's really overlooked in the construction industry. We just tend to, you know, assume that it's something that comes just with age and experience. But, you know, it is something you can learn. It's something you can be taught like any other skill. So I think as an industry, we would be a lot further forward now in terms of digital progress if there was a better culture of people development. You know, we need to invest much more in developing people, in leadership, in communication skills, in personal effectiveness, assertiveness. You know, these are the kinds of training which they're just seen as normal in other sectors. But it's just not the done thing in, you know, most parts of the construction sectors. So that's the leadership part, and then the other part is the digital piece. So you know, that's kind of general education and awareness about the benefits of digital tools, you know, understanding the role in making our jobs quicker and safer and more profitable, you know, and easier for the people who are doing the jobs, understanding the practicalities, the resources, the costs, the return on investment when you're looking at, you know, implementing a digital solution. So a lot of this comes down to the power of intention, really. You know, if you want to learn about something, you can. There's no shortage of information out there these days, you know, about different technologies, modern methods of construction, you know, that anyone can find out about if they want to. You know, we're living in an age where we don't need permission to learn about anything these days. It's all out there for anyone to consume. But in terms of the training available, you know, with the leadership, for example, there's a fantastic company called The Power Within Training and Development. And unlike lots of other leadership programs, they're focused completely on construction. So if anyone wants an introduction to that company, just let me know and I'm happy to do that. In terms of the digital leadership in particular, we, like digital construction skills, we have got a range of courses that you know, go right from the basics through to more in-depth on specific topics. And they've been funded by the CITB, but like they're one-day courses, or they can be done by blended learning at your own pace. And so just to give you an example of the kind of courses we've got getting started with digital construction, taking digital construction to the next level, and then some more kind of niche things like HR and digital construction, behavioural change and digital construction, and importantly, the legal and contractual aspects of digital construction. Now, we offer those courses to anyone, but they're completely free to CITB registered companies, because that's funded through the Digital Transformation Through Leaders project. And they're all available as e-learning modules. They're completely free to access on our website, along with loads of other free resources. You know, again, fully funded. We can also offer coaching and support to CITB registered companies. But, you know, in general, there is training available, there is funding available, there is support available to help with digital transformation and digital leadership, but it's not always apparent where to find it. So if anybody wants me to signpost them to any of that funding or support that is available, just, you know, get in touch, because I'm more than happy to do that.
That's great. Thank you, Saffron. A lot of food for thought there. Before we speak to our next guest speaker, we're just going to run another quick poll. So while Aoife brings that up on screen, just thanks again, Saffron, for your input there. Very insightful, and hopefully will inspire some conversation in the breakout rooms. How are we doing, Aoife? Everyone answered that yet?
It's going up. 85% have, 87. I'm just giving it a few more seconds. Okay, I'll share the results now.
Great. So vision and preparing for the future, the resounding #1 there, followed up by being open to ideas from the younger generation. It's interesting, we'll probably come on to it a little bit later when we talk to Richard, but the younger generation do have a huge part to play in this. But I think, yeah, the top one sort of speaks for itself. So, yeah, I'm now delighted to invite Paul Ingham from Morrison Construction to join me on the panel to have a conversation about how digitisation of construction has gone within Morrison. Paul, welcome.
Good afternoon, Nick. Good afternoon, everyone.
Could you just do a quick introduction for those who don't know you, who you are, your role within the organisation, and the company's sort of main sectors that they engage with?
Certainly. Good afternoon, everyone. As Nick says, I'm Paul Ingham. I'm Regional Director for Morrison Construction in Scotland. Morrison Construction trade in Scotland does that, but our parent company, Galliford Try. Galliford Try are one of the UK's leading construction companies, employing 3,000 staff in the UK. And we operate through two business units, that's infrastructure and buildings. My part of the business in Scotland is the environmental business in the infrastructure business, and we largely serve regulated utility sector, regional councils and the manufacturing industry through water projects and environmental projects. Galliford's business model was founded in delivering excellence to our clients in collaboration with the supply chain. So those two aspects in particular make it essential for us to embrace technology and modern methods, and in particular invest in digital technologies and systems to leverage the efficiencies that will make us fit for providing a sustainable construction future. So I'm really pleased to join this discussion today and to hopefully share in the development of this sector in our industry.
You've touched on the answer to my first question already slightly there, Paul, but for a more full picture of it, how important is it for senior leaders, management, the board of your company to be on board, or any construction company really, to be on board with digital transformation agenda? What knowledge and skills and awareness do they need in order to adequately resource and facilitate it?
Well, I think as leaders, you have to have that awareness that we need to fully embrace the inevitability of a digital transformation. The construction industry, and my industry, having spent long enough in it myself, has historically gathered vast amounts of data, but it's not necessarily used that data or those data sets together well to provide the best platform to provide operational efficiencies going forward. So the connection from data to digital sources transferred through the digital platforms, it's fundamental in securing efficiencies, and those efficiencies ultimately drive down cost, they promote more sustainable solutions, and they reduce our carbon numbers. And I'm pretty sure if I spoke to any one of my customers, those are the top 3 things on their list they'll be looking for me to provide to them. So they're imperative to deliver if we're to continue to be a leader in our market with a sustainable future. I think on knowledge and skills, they go hand in hand somewhat. We need to ensure that our teams, they don't just understand the agenda, they're on board with the agenda, but they also have the tools, obviously, and the interconnecting hardware and software, compatible software, I should add, together with training to make the most of the data. And just an example of that, we've recently in Galliford invested in some new data analysts. Rather than graduate civil engineers, we've branched out into different market sectors, and people who would normally be going into perhaps the financial environment, coming into the construction sector and adding those skills and interests to our business and the manipulation of data and digital data to make sure that we can use that data to our operational benefit. And we're already seeing efficiencies coming from that new approach and the approach of youth and a different mindset.
Excellent. I mean, you talked about the importance of training there. Obviously, that's imperative in the implementation of any sort of program, let alone digital. But how extensive has your training program been? How hard has it been to develop that program? How have you sought to deliver it? Has it been through external consultants, in-house developed programs? You know, talk us through how.
It's a bit of both. Yeah, we've obviously invested our own R&D money into training as we have to do, and I think that's an important part of this discussion. In that it's not going to come from the clients necessarily in the first place. You're going to have to invest your own R&D money into this to make an impact and to make an opening in the opportunities with the clients. So we've invested our own money in bringing in digital partners and transformational companies with products to sell, certainly, but those companies are still at the early part of their voyage, and they're keen to share their data with us and share training and learning with us as part of that selling exercise. So that's an opportunity we can use with market providers to get training into our organisation free, if you like, as part of that building a relationship. There are government and public funding initiatives, and Saffron was speaking about those earlier, which are, if not free, we've certainly put our fees into the pots to pay for those funding exercises, and we really should latch on to those, and there's a lot of those available, and it's really just a question of looking for the right ones for the teams and getting people on board and making space and time for them to engage with them. And so the information training skills course are there. It's a bit from inside and a bit from outside. A mix of the two generally is upskilling the teams to the levels that they need to engage with this initiative.
Excellent. And leadership's not just about, you know, senior management within a company. I think, you know, leadership can be applied to the supply chain as well, where the tier one has to lead the supply chain. What do Morrisons do in terms of supporting their supply chain in readying themselves for digital transition?
Well, you'll recognise obviously that we can't, as Morrison Galliford, transform our digital capability alone. We need to work with our supply chain. The more data that's involved in the process, the more likely we're able to derive efficiencies. So, and a lot of that data comes from our supply chain. It's not just our data, so it all needs to interlink. Now, our business supply chain procurement system is actually called Advantage Through Alignment. And that name would suggest that provides us with the opportunity to work with our supply chain, and not to be just like-minded in conditions of contract, but to think from the outset and that first engagement with the supply chain that they have the same mindset about digital advancement and technology and connection, such as we have, so that we both see the shared benefit in that relationship going forward. So it's right from the start from engagement on our procurement processes. And we'll share with them our investment in our new digital platforms, again, because we need our supply chain members to be compatible with those. And they need to see the benefit that come back to their businesses as well in automation of system and process and data transfer. A typical example of that might be an automated data reading process on dockets of equipment that arrives at site. It's automatically loaded onto the system, transferred back into the supply chain system, immediately recognizes the fact that the information or the product has been provided and enables them to immediately invoice us for that. So it speeds up the cash process as well. So there's numerous benefits that supply chain can be involved in and see from the outset.
I think we'll leave it there on that very positive point for supply chain, that they'll get paid faster. That's always seems to be something that supply chain talk about. Thank you very much for your answers to those questions, Paul. And now we'll hand back to Linda.
Hi there, Nick. Thank you very much. Very interesting topics conversation there. So we're now going to move into our first breakout session, which will be about 15 minutes long. I would encourage you to introduce yourselves to everybody in the room and introduce your company. And then we will talk about what important skills leaders and managers need to drive a digital transformation. So I think over to Eva to separate us into room.
Yeah, and I'll just add that the breakout rooms aren't being recorded, so please have open, honest chat and discussion. Okay, I'll open the rooms now. Right, Nick, I think you can kick off.
Right, that's great. Thanks, everyone. Hopefully you all found that first breakout session useful. Before I introduce my next guest, just remind you that we will have another breakout session following the next Q&A, and then we'll open the floor to a bit more wider discussion after the following breakout session. So please do stay on the line. But it gives me great pleasure to introduce Richard Kirk from Workplus. So Richard, could you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who Workplus are and what you do?
Thanks very much, Nick. So Workplus is an apprentice marketplace. So it's an easier way for employers across all sectors to find apprentices. We know that it's a massive cultural shift needed to try and help the apprenticeship model become something of a household name again, really owning it for what it actually is rather than just trade and craft apprenticeships. So the mission that we're on at Workplus is to change how our culture views apprenticeships, and we do that by making it easier for companies to hire apprentices through our platform, and then easier for people to apply. So acting like a UCAS for apprenticeships. So that's the vision of where we want to get to with all of this.
Very good. So first question, I suppose to get things rolling is, what do you think that clients and designers could do better in order to support digital enablement throughout the construction process?
Yeah, so I suppose I've given my introduction and you're thinking, why on earth is he here to talk about digital construction? And I spent 10 years working for the Institution of Civil Engineers, and there I was involved with Digital Built Britain and ICE's own State of the Nation report, which was on digital transformation. And something that was very, very clear is to start with why. Any followers of Simon Sinek, the American author, will know that's the title of one of his most famous books, Start With Why. So it's the idea of starting with the end in mind. Just as Saffron mentioned earlier about digital leadership is really just leadership in a digital age. This is really important when we think about the digital enablement of the construction process. Because the technology that we use, whether we moved from using hods and shovels to construction plant, we don't really obviously want to go back to using those sort of manual tasks again. We've had technology in the construction industry, and this is just the next phase of it. But the technology is only ever a tool to support a business process or a procurement process. So it's important that rather than seeing digital digital construction or digital tools that we might use as the toys that attract the attention that will be sold to us, that will be marketed to the construction professionals. Those can just be a quick fix to a problem, but it might be solving the wrong problem. And as I've moved from the construction sector, and now Workplus is really a tech startup, I've been really challenged around how to approach problems and solve them with digital tools, because our business is a digital business. But it always starts with, what's the problem you're trying to solve? What's the pain point that you're trying to address with a painkiller? And it's the same for the construction industry. Because the reality is, if you don't understand that problem well enough, you'll end up buying the wrong product and you'll spend too much on it. You'll live with the annoyance of having, every time you use it, being reminded how much it's costing you, and actually it's not solving the problem. It's not delivering the outcomes that you'd hope for within your business.
Yeah, you've touched on procurement there, and leads nicely onto my next question about procurement policies. And do they actually help innovate, or do they hamper the embedding of digital transformation within the construction industry?
Yeah. Government policy, has a massive role to play in digital transformation. And I remember working on a couple of pilot projects that were implementing level 2 BIM, and that sort of carrot and stick approach is well recognized, particularly in construction. And part of the reason for that is that construction industry, as we know, is identified as being one of the most unproductive sectors, the lowest profit margins. We're happy with a 1.52% profit margin if we can get it, but also a high degree of aversion to risk. So all of that sort of cocktail, lethal cocktail, is just a vicious cycle really for the industry. And if I refer back to where we are now as a technology business, there is a massive culture of freedom to fail within the technology business. Businesses, you're encouraged to fail quickly. The reason we can do that is because of the ability to scale. Businesses and therefore investors will be happy to put money into businesses that can work out quickly. It's obviously very different for construction, very traditional. It needs procurement to make those changes. But what we find is, and talking to the businesses we're working with the likes of Gilbert Ash, Farran's, Graham, Atkins, AECOM, and what they find is that since COVID, not just digitally working from home using MS Teams, etc., but just actually the businesses have started they've had to think differently about the way in which they run their businesses. So actually that has been a real enabler of change within those organizations. And actually that's where the change is going to be at its steepest. And it's going to make the biggest impact on the wider industry, is whenever those businesses see it for themselves. Yes, enforcing it through policy has got its place. I'm sure of that. But it's that strong leadership that comes from businesses understanding the problems they have with profitability, productivity within their business, and then seeing that they can actually apply technology to help them solve those problems in a way that they could never have imagined 5 years ago. And COVID has been a real stimulus for that, as far as we can see.
That's great. One final question before we return to the breakout rooms. Do you think that the education sector is well enough in touch with industry to understand industry's needs, workforce requirements when it comes to digital content?
So I suppose if we just classify the education here as being further or higher education, so colleges, universities, because that's obviously where we start to get much more specific and applied in our learning towards workforce. So having sat on industrial advisory boards at universities and colleges, the frustration there can be that employers turn up 2 or 3 times a year, and maybe it's not the same people every time. That the agenda is set by the college or university mostly. And really the conversation that I heard in my 10 years of ICE was coming from the academics saying, we're not really quite sure what you need out there in industry. And the employer saying, you're not teaching them what we need for industry. And that was how I would characterize that conversation. Now, that there obviously are fundamentals to the things that we learn in construction, whether it's a quantity surveying course or civil engineering. There are fundamental principles that we need to learn, of course. But what the apprenticeship approach, so if we think about the learning is not just being something that's in series, so you go to further or higher education and then you come out the other end of that and then you hope you get a job. With an apprenticeship, it brings those two things into parallel. But what it does is it allows the employers and universities or colleges to work much more closely together around curriculum. So in Northern Ireland, we developed the first level 3 civil engineering apprenticeship, and it was a group of 30 companies working together with all 6 FE colleges. And essentially we were horse trading over the content of it, just trying to get it all really industry focused and ultimately yielding a really good outcome for the company, educator, but also the apprentice. And what we find is that having that apprenticeship approach, there's a good, lovely rhythm and cadence to it, because they're in work 4 days a week. They go to college or uni 1 day a week, and then they're back in work for 4 days. And there's just, everyone is just getting better. The apprentice is getting better. The lecturers are even hearing more about what's happening out there in industry. And I suppose the kind of one of the final points I'd be keen to make is that, and it touches back on a point we had in our breakout group, and I think Saffron touched on it earlier, is around the leadership within within construction organizations. They have to engage the digital natives within their organization, and they will typically be the new entrants. Apprentices are a massive resource for businesses, that they approach problems in a completely different way than those who have been around the construction industry for 30 years will. And they can often come with ideas and in a direction that brings technology and problem solving to a whole new level. So that's what I would encourage construction companies, and we've seen this benefit with our apprentices, really challenging the status quo within their organizations. And that has been really welcomed, and there's been really good solutions found there.
That's great. Thank you very much, Richard. Some really great answers and insight there into digital natives and what we need to do in terms of apprenticeships. I'm going to hand over to Linda now to introduce the next breakout room.
Sorry, on mute there. Thank you, Nick. Thank you very much, Richard. Yes, we're moving into breakout room 2 now. Again, 15 minutes. So the question, we're away already, I think, some of us, but if there was one change we can make in the construction industry which help achieve rapid digital transformation, what would it be? Okay.
I'll open the breakout rooms now for 10 minutes, okay?
Hi, Nick.
So welcome back, everyone. I hope you all found that interesting. If we just run around the groups and just see if we can get the facilitators to feedback with some salient points that were discussed. Eugene, perhaps if we could start with yourself.
Yeah, sure. Really good discussions in our breakout rooms, and difficult to sort of capture them, but one that really appealed to me was this idea of the fast fail and the need to sort of try things, and to do that within a sensible risk, and that is really very much an attitude of mind, and that understanding of the opportunities that are out there, and an understanding of your business and how the two could work well together. We had in the most recent one discussions about very much about that sort of standards and sharing of information, and also the integration of information across various elements seem to be drivers for an opportunity digital offers into the construction industry. There were some great terms and phrases used, like the importance of curiosity, that we like change, but nobody actually likes to change, and don't boil the ocean. So make of that as you will.
Very good. Some great catchphrases there. John, if I could ask you to give me some insights from your group.
Sure, thanks, Nick. So again, a conversation that could have gone on for hours. We kind of pricked the area of digital drivers as well, but the digital drive of asset operators. So in terms of the most important skill, we kind of talked about vision, and the digital driver of asset operators really valuing the data and demanding it. And we felt that there's a little bit of a disconnect at the moment between the design construction of an asset and the importance of digital tools and what we deliver. And I think it was Ian at Sigma who said, look, we build something in 2 years and then we operate it for 80 potentially. And yet the operators still aren't connecting with the value of the data. And there's implementation problems, and Talia at Pinnacle talked of her experience of managing buildings, and it's not one-sided. So we could have spent hours literally on that conversation. And the second topic, the silver bullet, yeah, I didn't get in too much depth, but education was seen as a key enabler, and then the value procurement maybe would something I would have thrown in as well, rather than lowest cost. But hopefully that gives you a general sense of some of the areas we touched on, but a really good robust conversation.
So it sounds like the nail was firmly hit in the head in both groups, John. Saffron, could I ask you to give us some insight from your breakout rooms?
Yeah, it's just it's the correlation between what leaders should be doing anyway, in terms of looking 5 years ahead and not just 6 months, asking why we're doing what we're doing. The general kinds of strategic planning, risk and opportunity, not being reactive, looking at what competitors are doing and taking all of that and understanding that digital tools are a way to support that, and that they're a way to support wider business strategy. So it's like, you don't look at the digital first, you look at the pain points and you look at the what you want to achieve first, and then you look at how digital tools can achieve that.
Excellent. Chris, if we go over to you for some points from your groups.
Yeah, so some fantastic discussions again, Nick, and yeah, just to build on, basically everyone's covered quite a lot about the visions thing. I think really one of the key things I think we identified, you definitely need a passionate, informed decision making executive director level, really to drive that message home about digital change. And I think on the flip side, we talked about the power of youth. I think we've talked. I think we've covered that quite well today as well. Don't underestimate the power of youth. I think that's really, really important. So that was really the two main themes that we kind of talked about. And then really, I think the whole thing about the one thing you would change is really just looking at how we're getting this message across for digital transformation, and how resonant is a message for smaller businesses in the supply chain, telling them they're behind, telling them they need to change, and then they're not going for the right reasons. So I think that's really important. There's a lot of education around that piece as well. So that's for me, Nick.
That's great. I think the power of youth and the digital natives is coming up again and again. When I was speaking to Richard before the session, we talked about how my 7-year-old son is better with his iPad than I am. So, that's certainly a sign. George, can we get some insight from your group, please?
Nick, certainly, yeah. I listened to 2 breakout sessions, were great. The only bad thing was we ran out of time. We had lots to talk about, and there's loads of engagement, which is and the more that you come on these digital construction series, you can see some really good ideas and some really good commenting about what's being discussed at the present moment. The breakout number 1 was really good. More leaders with more vision, more strategy, more innovation. If they're going to start introducing stuff, then make it strategic and make it innovative, and get everybody engaged. If you're going to have an idea or a plan to involve digital engagement or organization, get everybody engaged and encourage that engagement right down from the bottom right to the top. And look, technology only works with people and process, and we can see this from the COVID-19. Without technology, we couldn't have done our jobs over the pandemic. But again, it only works with people and process, and people and process have to be engaged in the whole area. Breakout number 2 was excellent. Really good, lively debate, loads of comments. I think one thing we'd like to see change is government policy to ensure that all buildings have the right level of information. And it's the right level of information to operate them, to manage them, not just from the construction, but the construction is so important, but then to operate and the management. So we've access to our building information for all the time. We all, you know, the apprenticeship program, excellent idea. I think that's a really good and important improvement for every industry, and not just for construction FM, the apprenticeship program. Top notch. Okay, thanks guys.
No, it's, yeah, I think that's a key thing that we come in up against all the time in Northern Ireland when we're working with client companies, is trying to make construction sexy. You know, can we make construction sexy again? And that's the challenge. And if we can, and digital is part of that, we'll win in terms of attracting the best young talent into our industry. And I think that's what we've got to do. And finally, Linda.
Hi Nick, hi. Great again, great conversations. Probably a lot of what's been said already, but breakout one, open to change and being courageous to take the risk in the first place. And then secondly, communication skills to explain why as a leader you want to do what you want to do and why it benefits the business. In return, listen to your staff, listen to your younger staff, which we've mentioned on here, people that really understand the digital world. Be open-minded enough to ask the experts, use the experts, so really recruit and employ the right people to deliver the job for you. Know enough to know what you need to do for the strategy, and then hire the right people to do the job, to get on with it, and basically have a vision as to how you aspire your people to come on board with you. So that was really good conversation on one. So as Saffron said in her speech, basically good leadership skills ultimately overall. And breakout two, we didn't have too much time to go into the conversation there, but basically one answer I thought was excellent and nailed it for me. I've heard this before in other conversations I've had, but basically more funding from the ultimate player in the tendering process to support the supply chain, if I got that right, Paul. Yeah, to support the systems that will support the project. And that was all we got. So excellent.
Very good. Excellent. I think we'd like to sort of throw it open to some of the audience now to sort of maybe, you know, pluck up the courage to come in under the spotlight and give us one key takeaway from this event, or something that you think we've all missed. Quick on here. Has anyone got any burning desire to say anything?
Azar Kalol, you have your hands up, but we can't see your video. Do you want to turn your video on? Azir? I don't know. You're on mute as well, so we can't hear you.
Hello, sorry. I can't have my I can't have my video on.
No,
my phone camera got messed up. All right. So earlier I introduced myself in the room that I was assigned to in the first breakout session. I'm an architecture technologist, but I just started a construction technology company that services, and we will be offering geospatial services. That's digital construction layout and laser scanning. Now, my major takeaway here is a technology or digital. People from the Industrial Revolution could have considered later workflows that came through as advancements or better workflows. So when should we consider something better? I think we have to break. I read it from I think it was a post by Sue Hitton, where we have to break workflows or technologies into two: those that are necessary, so things that we have been doing all along, and things that directly add value. And these are usually disruptive workflows. Right now we call them lean. So when we choose to focus on those, then I think we can start acknowledging them and integrating them into our daily workflows, which is usually hard. So I think that was my takeaway, and also focusing on how to make these things part of these workflows part of our projects, so daily operations. In my opinion, I think regulations will do a lot. Like I think the UK government made a BIM level 2 a mandatory a prerequisite for being involved in any government-related projects. So I think that's, so companies that can't adopt to that, or individuals that can't adopt to such directly value-adding workflows, they get knocked out. That's my opinion. I don't know if it made any sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Azar. Does anybody else from the wider audience have anything they want to say? I might invite some of our speakers to come back and just say one final thought for the day, if nobody else has got any questions.
I have a quick comment, Nick, just very, very briefly. And I think it was George mentioned it, the piece about education, and, you know, for the one thing to focus on in an organization. A lot of the time, and I think the pandemic has been a great example of this, technology has accelerated, and the uptake of technology has accelerated because of the pandemic, and we've had to find solutions. So it's, yes, it's a silver lining, if you like, from a tragic situation, but it has demonstrated to people that technology can be an enabler for business success, which is a wonderful moment if you think about it, that companies have had to start using Zoom and Slack and Monday and all these wonderful tech platforms to survive in business. So the door is open, if you like, and in construction, the door is very much open. And now technology, people are a bit more open to it because they've seen the business success. So finding a way to then educate folks, and back to your point, Nick, about the short-termism and panic stations, if you can find a way to educate people regularly and routinely within an organization as to what's out there from a technology perspective to solve business problems, then people will probably try things a little bit more readily, because if they don't if you're not aware of something, you're not going to actually actively pursue it and try it and embed it in your organization. So that education piece, I think, is hugely important.
Thank you, John.
I see Liam McKillivray also has his hand up.
Yep, just a quick comment. Is it to do with the time scale? I'm old enough. When I was at university, we started learning on slide rules. We didn't even have calculators, and things have happened over 40 years. And we focus on 1 year, 3 year projects, and we've got to have a longer term underpinning strategy. And we expect too much too soon. We won't change anything very much in 1 or 2 years. The other thing is we need to look at other countries. My digital design work is done offshore now because I can get it better, a service I can't find in Scotland. So we think that we're fantastic in Scotland, like we are in football, but we're actually pretty rubbish. That was all.
Yeah. Fair enough. Not sure how to respond to that one.
There's great
I
potential.
think, you know, we are seeing a lot of offshoring, and of course, technology and digital technology enables that. So, you know, if there are better pockets of talent around the world, why not harness it to deliver a global solution rather than just focusing on a local one? Just a bit of thought there. I think timing-wise, that's probably us close to wanting to wrap up, is it, Aoife? Or I might just hand back to Linda to say a few final closing words.
Okay. Thank you, Nick. Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for joining us here today. And thank Invest Northern Ireland for sponsoring this series of events. And also thanks to our speakers, Saffron Grant, Paul Ingham, and Richard Kirk for taking part in the Q&A sessions today and sharing some really valuable insights and experiences. And I think we heard some fantastic, valuable insights in the breakout rooms as well. I always love the breakout rooms. As highlighted in the series of events, wouldn't have happened if it weren't for the connections made through the Causeway network and our members who have convened this series. The group of people that have done all this together are just members of the organisation. They are not all board members. If you're not currently a member, I strongly recommend you look into becoming a member and considering joining our network. We would absolutely love to have you join us and hear from you. We hope you can join us again in the future for future events in the series. Our next one is the 10th of June. We will gather again to explore implementation of digital technology. And on the 16th of September, we will be discussing collaborating in digital construction solutions. Causeway is also hosting our flagship Black Tie Business Awards on the 7th of October, with calls for nominations in a variety of categories now open. I encourage you to save the date and consider putting your nomination in for business. And I would highly, highly recommend you come along. It's one of the best dinners I've been to over the years, and I have been to a lot. The Causeway team will be in touch with details for future events, delegates lists from today's event and recording of today's event. For our non-member guests here today, also details of membership. I hope you all have a lovely evening and take care, and thank you very much again for joining us tonight on such a nice night. Thank you.